Thank you. So today we're going to look at tailoring your communication for the multi-generational workforce. Let's start by taking a look at the generation game. The current workforce spans up to 50 years. There is a diverse range of aspirations, attitudes towards technology and careers, and distinct preferences for communications. Your handout shows this in much more detail, but I wanted to highlight some of the characteristics here. Think about your employees. You might have maturists and baby boomers who tend to be more disengaged with technology and like face-to-face communication. This is juxtaposed with Generation Y and Z, for whom technology is second nature. They've grown up surrounded by it and perhaps, as a result, expect and feel most comfortable with digital communication. What challenges does this difference in experience and attitudes towards technology pose to you when communicating with your employees? It's a complicated dynamic. Here is the current makeup of the UK workforce by age. Generation Y and younger currently make up 36% of the workforce and have a significant proportion of workers aged over 50. When we look at how this will change over the next 8 to 10 years, we can see that age diversity will only increase. By 2025, it's expected that Generation Y and Z will make up over 60% of the workforce. Our employees are also working for longer and reaching retirement at an older age. As age diversity increases, so will your challenge in terms of how you provide benefits and how you communicate with your employees. What's next? Mark McCrindle is an award-winning social researcher, author, and influential thought leader. He has coined the term Generation Alpha. Born from 2010 onwards, Generation Alpha are expected to be the most formally educated, most technologically supplied, and wealthiest generation ever. These children are just at the beginning of their school life, so what can we know about them already? Well, demographically, Generation Alpha have older parents, a more diverse cultural mix, smaller families, more wealth, and longer life expectancies. It will be fascinating to see how they will shape the workplace of the future. They will be joining the workforce in about 10 to 15 years, so around 2025. Looking at your challenges. What we do know is that a one-dimensional approach to communication doesn't work for a multi-generational workforce. As leaders, your challenge in creating a benefit strategy that engages your multi-generational workforce are understanding differences in communication style and cultural expectation. Communication preferences are vastly different across age groups. The generational differences are obvious, but you can also draw comparisons between people within one generation. The age gap could be only 5 to 10 years, but there will be differences in the way people like to absorb and use information. Accepting and even embracing these differences and taking account of other perspectives is key to make sure you're not diluting either extreme. Cultural shifts driven by technology advances can be difficult for older generations to get used to. Good performance is no longer about being present at your desk. The results you produce are what matters. Your on-the-ground challenge is keeping a fair balance between the younger and older generations. Where older generations have a job-for-life mindset and might expect more from you in return for their loyalty, younger generation who have more transitional careers still expect a fair deal. There is a demand for portable benefits here that employees can take with them throughout their careers. We're already seeing an industry change in pensions, therefore how might other benefits follow suit? Facing into the challenge. I want to share a working example with you and introduce Clive Cripps, Interim Benefits Manager, who recently took a fresh look at the benefits programme at LV and experienced the challenges. Clive, can you tell us a bit about what challenges you identified within the flex benefits offering at LV?
Well, at LV, there was an established flexible benefits scheme that has a very positive view at the time from the company. But we knew that there was better that could be had out of it. What we particularly identified was we had a scheme that had very much a once-a-year mindset. People would go to it in December for their January elections and then not really think about it through the rest of the year. The company also offered a lot of other benefits that weren't within the flexible benefits scheme, whether they be voluntary benefits, whether they be staff discounts on own products, all that sort of thing. And yet there was no integration of it. They were all higgledy-piggledy, if you like, all over the place. There wasn't a real understanding of the concept of total reward and actually the reward package overall. As something in the financial sector, you've got quite complicated bonuses, particularly when you get up to senior levels where you're looking at LTIPs and all that sort of thing. And the level of understanding really wasn't that great. Low take-up on the voluntary benefits package that we're spending quite a lot of money on offering. But I think the biggest thing that came out of the work that we did when we first got there was actually realising that we were losing a lot of employees on the journey to go and make their selection. They had to use a different URL. They had to use a username and password that they probably didn't use for anything else. We just made it hard for people to go there, and I'm convinced we lost a lot on the way. Some of the benefits could have been more tax efficient and so on, things that needed doing on that. And some of the policies could be a bit more modern. We had co-insurance for the dental insurance, for example, rather than the full cover. And certainly one big issue was there was too much manual intervention at the reporting stage. People were having to do too much. There was a huge amount of time being spent administering, not added value administration, but just making sure the basic administration went right. And also the flex system provider that we had at that time, they wanted to charge us for changing words, for doing any change, whereas in the modern world, we really believed we needed a dynamic ability to maybe change it ourselves. Certainly not to have cost inhibiting us from actually keeping ourselves up to date on everything and keeping our employees up to date.
Thank you, Clive. These were some of your challenges. What was your approach to addressing them?
Well, I suppose the biggest thing we did was a decision to actually change our flex provider. So we went out to market, we found a new provider that would fit more what we wanted to do. And if you like, my role there was very much, apart from the consulting issues, was actually project managing the entire implementation of a new provider, because there's no doubt about it, that is quite a big job. What we also did, though, is we moved as many benefits as we could to anytime benefits so that people could actually have a reason for engaging throughout it. For instance, we had a cycle to work scheme. In December, when it's peeing down and it's really unpleasant, why have it just so that you can go then, whereas in the spring, you're much more likely to get people who want to take part in it. And lots of the other benefits, we wanted people to be able to join in. So we changed the structure so that legally our flex scheme was a series of individual salary sacrifices. So it kept the Inland Revenue happy. Okay, and a lot of the benefits, okay, people can only sign up, but then they're locked in for a year. But they've now got the choice, they've got more reason to be going back, to not have just this cliff edge of this once a year choice. I think the biggest thing we did, strangely enough though, was bully our internal technology department so that we got single sign-on into the new Flex system. So it was a straightforward click a link on our intranet and it would take you through to the Flex selection system without you even realising that you've gone into a different system. And that single sign-on, I'm really convinced, got rid of the majority of those barriers that were in people's way for joining in. We went and got a new voluntary benefit scheme because when we started looking at why is our voluntary benefit scheme taken up so poorly, there were reasons that we could identify. And again, we tried to integrate that. There was then single sign-on to the voluntary benefit platform from the Flex benefit platform. People didn't realise they were going through different platforms. As far as they're concerned, they were coming into one environment. And within that voluntary benefits, part of the requirement was that they should host our staff discounts of our own products. Because obviously, motor insurance, car insurance, house insurance and so on, staff got good discounts for them. We wanted them to make use of that. Other thing we did is we integrated online total reward statements in there. First time we'd done total reward statements, we provided it again from within the same environment so that people had reason to go there more than that once a year. But then the thing that was hoped for, we weren't 100% confident how far we'd get there through the project, but we wanted touch-free administration. We wanted to get things so that reports issued from the system went automatically to providers, automatically to payroll, and so on, so that we weren't having God knows how many hours, man-hours, being spent reconciling things before they were accepted by providers and so on. And the last thing we did, and this might sound strange because probably a lot of you wouldn't think it would work from a cost basis, that's for sure, is we insourced our help desk. And the reason we did that is because as a company, about half our workforce was actually providing help desk services, telephone support to clients with a huge message on quality, how well they've got to deliver and so on. And there was a real feeling that we needed to control the service that was being provided to our employees so that we weren't seen to be hypocritical on, we want you to do this for the outside world, yet we won't do as good a service for you. So, yeah, they're the headlines of what we did, among a lot of other little things as well on the way.
Well, it certainly sounds like you had a big change and an awful lot to communicate. So how did you go about addressing the communication? Okay,
and this is coming back to what you were just saying now, Pam. We have a wide range of staff. We had from call centre staff to actuaries that we need to deal with in the organisation. And we had a very wide run of generations, as Pam was identifying. Not yet the Generation Alpha, but pretty much all the other generations very well represented. And the theory of what Pam was talking about earlier would say that you would now expect me to sit here and say, okay, so what we did is we did a load of tweets, we did a load of this, we did lots of different media. The reality is, as the fundamental core of communication, we couldn't quite go that far. We had to make a decision for cost and logistics reasons that there was going to be one place that was the centre of truth for everything to do with benefits and reward issues on it, and that was going to be the flexible benefit system. So that meant that any detailed communication was actually tied to that one particular media. So our priority then was to actually try and pass out supporting media that had an objective of pulling people to the benefit system. So we did that in a couple of ways. Firstly, we put a huge effort into designing the way that the web text was structured to try and make sure that it could meet the needs of all the generations and all the psychologies of the people that were involved, so that it could deal with the butterfly who would just flit in, just want a very quick bit oversight and out, as well as, I suppose, the anorak who really wanted to go in and drill down to really, really deep levels of information. So a lot of effort put into that. But another thing we did that I think was very significant for the generations is we realised that one system is going to have to compromise to be acceptable to everyone. What we actually did is we took an advanced draft of the system and then took a range of employees representing all the different generations, put them in a lab environment for them making their benefit choice and actually using the system live, and then had someone running a debrief with them to actually learn from them where it wasn't obvious what you were meant to do next on the system, to see where there were changes we needed to make to the system, changes to the signposting we did on the system and so on. And this got us to include things like little training videos on how you use the system, and lots of, and oh, that being over there, you don't look for it there, you need it down there. Just lots of silly little things, but it did mean that we were able to amend the system to come up with something that actually seemed to work for all the generations.
Thank you. Finally, can you tell us the impact of addressing these known challenges?
Okay, well, I think, and I'm getting cards waved at the back on timing, but I think it's worth noting that we had an over 20% increase of people who actually took part in the benefit process. So we had an extra 1,000 employees actually join the game. We had 10 benefits where we got over a 10% increase in take-up. We have 5 benefits where we got over a 20% increase in take-up. We got really positive feedback from employees, but I think the thing that says that we really got it working best of all was that not only did we have a certainty of an improved understanding of benefits from the way that people were talking in the organisation, but with all this change involved, we actually had less queries to the help desk than there had been during the enrolment period than there had been the previous year, which convinced us that we'd actually got things right in the way that we put the information, the web text forward, in the way that we'd got the system working so that it was intuitive, so that people used it automatically. And that really made me feel, apart from the stats, good stats, that we'd actually done a really good job on it.
Lovely. Thank you, Clive. That was very insightful. Thank you for sharing that experience with us. Just one final slide before you can all go off for lunch. I was enjoying that seat there. I've just cycled back from Paris to London last night, so I was getting quite comfortable there, but back on my feet. Finally, if you don't take anything else from this session, remember that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Your organisation has its own unique workforce and challenges. As the age diversity of the workforce increases, you need to think about whether your employees are engaged with the benefits on offer, whether these benefits support your company objectives, and if the benefits you're offering are meaningful to employees. Just over half of organisations we surveyed in our Health and Wellbeing Benefits Guide said they only communicate with staff about employee benefits on less than a quarterly basis. We need to do better. To truly understand what is happening in your business, the best thing you can do is engage with your employees. Thank you all very much. I think that's the one. Thank you. Oh.